Part 7. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mi and Bulletin Leng. Chapter 61. Let me go. Lu Ningxuang struggled hard, her eyes red. However, these palace ladies ignored Lu Ningxuang's resistance at all. In a moment, she was stripped naked. Lu Ningxuang's legs are slender and fair, full and straight, with graceful curves. Looking at her beautiful figure, the palace ladies couldn't help but look envious. Don't even think about humiliating me. Looking at the looks in the eyes of the surrounding palace maids, Lu Ningxuang was filled with resentment and gritted her teeth. The palace maids did not answer, they just helped Lu Ningxuang up and pushed her into the bath. The warm pool water enveloped Lu Ningxuang's slender and tender skin, slowly warming her cold body. Then the two palace maids each took out a towel, soaked it with warm water, and carefully wiped Lu Ningxuang's delicate body. Seeing such a scene, Lu Ningxuang's eyes showed despair and humiliation, and her eyes were red. "Don't touch me, get away, get out." Lu Ningxuang waved her arms desperately and tried her best to resist the maid's touch. But the power in her body and even her dantian have been blocked by Qin Mu, making her unable to use any strength at all. Tears slid down the corners of his eyes, and fell into the abyss along his snow-white neck. Finally, it slowly fell into the pool, causing ripples. After an unknown amount of time, the maids finally stopped helping Lu Ningxuang take a bath. The misty breath steamed up, and Lu Ningxuang's delicate body appeared vaguely in the clouds and mist, like a piece of beautiful jade, with an alluring luster. However, she sat there blankly, as if she was stupid, without making any movement. "Your Majesty, I will help you clean it up." At this time, a palace lady said softly. Hearing this, Lu Ningxuang trembled suddenly. "Empress Xuanfei, please help me dress up for you." Another slightly younger palace lady spoke softly and reached out to stroke Lu Ningxuang's wet hair. "Unnecessary." Lu Ningxuang glanced at the palace maid coldly and refused unceremoniously. The maid suddenly looked embarrassed. After all, dressing up requires the cooperation of the other party. Without cooperation, it will be difficult to proceed. When all the maids were at a loss, there was a soft sound of footsteps outside the hall. Then a beautiful woman with graceful appearance, picturesque features and graceful figure stepped in from the outside and walked into the main hall. She smiled slightly, slowly picked up a gauze shawl, and gently covered Lu Ningxuang's body. "Don't worry, we will never hurt you." This beautiful woman's voice was gentle and pleasant. She looked at Lu Ningxuang and said with a gentle smile, "You are now loved by His Majesty. If something happens to you, we may be in trouble too." "Who are you?" Lu Ningxuang raised her head and looked at the beautiful woman in front of her, with a hint of vigilance on her face. "My name is Han Sueki," the beautiful woman said softly. "Han Sueki." Lu Ningxuang's eyes flickered, a little confused. This beautiful woman has an outstanding temperament, and her every move exudes nobility and elegance. She doesn't look like a palace maid, but more like a lady from a noble family. "Similar to you, I also entered the palace after my family was ruined," Han Sueki sighed and said. Hearing this, Lu Ningxuang fell silent. It seems that she is another good woman who is deeply persecuted by that foolish king. The hateful foolish king really deserves to die. Lu Ningxuang bit her silver teeth secretly. She looked at Han Sueki, her eyes lost their previous indifference and turned into a soft color. "They are all people with the same destiny. You." Lu Ningxuang hesitated. "If I don't cooperate, will you be punished?" Han Sueki nodded slightly, her eyes slightly helpless. "Yes, I will be severely punished." She is really helpless now. Every time something like this happens to her, she almost becomes a professional villain. And there is no reward for doing this kind of thing well, and there is punishment for doing it badly. Lu Ningxuang pursed her pink lips slightly and looked at Han Sueki with complicated eyes. Okay, I'll cooperate. Hearing Lu Ningxuang's words, Han Sueki's mouth curved slightly, revealing a charming smile. She slowly leaned down and leaned close to Lu Ningxuang's ear, whispering softly. Don't ever think about escaping from the palace, or any other thoughts that you shouldn't have. His Majesty's methods are far beyond your imagination. This is not a warning, but my advice to you. I hope you understand. Han Sueki's voice was soft, like the spring breeze blowing on the face, intoxicating. After saying that, Han Sueki straightened up and left slowly. The two palace maids stayed aside. Your Majesty, I will help you get dressed first. One of the palace maids gently tugged at the corner of Lu Ningxuang's clothes. Well. Lu Ningxuang nodded, no longer resisting, and allowed the maid to dress her. She already figured it out. Her enemy is Qin Mu, not these palace maids who may be even more miserable than her. She should not embarrass the other party, let alone let the other party be implicated in this. Not long after, Lu Ningxuang changed her clothes. She looked at herself in the mirror with her beautiful face and gorgeous phoenix robe. Her expression was complicated and her mood was difficult to calm down. She would have to leave this palace sooner or later. Sooner or later, she would kill Qin Mu, a foolish king, with her sword. So from now on, she must endure the humiliation and live well. She still has a chance. She still has a chance to take revenge. Thinking of this, Lu Ningxuang clenched her fists, her eyes were firm, and her heart regained faith. My queen, are you okay? Looking at Lu Ningxuang's expression, the two palace maids asked worriedly. I'm fine. Lu Ningxuang shook her head, collected her thoughts, and a faint smile appeared on her face. Then, Lu Ningxuang turned her head to look at the two palace maids and asked softly. What are your names? My maids are Baiyu and Qiushui, my queen, just call us by our names. A palace maid replied obediently. Another palace maid also nodded hurriedly. Lu Ningxuang nodded slightly, and then asked, where are we going later? My queen, His Majesty ordered us to take you to the Imperial Garden to enjoy the scenery. Baiyu said respectfully. Imperial Garden? Enjoy the scenery? Lu Ningxuang's eyes flickered, and doubts were in her heart. Qin Mu, this tyrant, did not let her go to the palace at the first time, but let her go to the Imperial Garden. What does he want to do? Is it really just a simple appreciation of the scenery? Lu Ningxuang breathed a sigh of relief, but then she felt a little indignant. Is this princess's appearance so bad? That tyrant didn't even have the desire to touch her? Is she really so unbearable? Or is he not interested at all? For some reason, the tyrant didn't show any lustful look, which made her a little disappointed. Of course, it was not because she was disappointed that she couldn't sleep with him. But the other party was so calm, not like a tyrant at all, which made Lu Ningxuang a little unpredictable. She would rather Qin Mu was a lustful tyrant, because it would be easier to deal with. But since it has come to this point, Lu Ningxuang had to bite the bullet and go on. Wait until her strength recovers, and then find a way to get out of this cage. A moment later, Baiyu led Lu Ningxuang towards the Imperial Garden. When she just arrived at the Imperial Garden, Lu Ningxuang was shocked by the scene in front of her. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 62. There are all kinds of pavilions, rock eyries, ponds, rare and exotic animals in the Imperial Garden. Moreover, every building is carefully crafted and extremely beautiful and luxurious. The most eye-catching thing is that there are hundreds of girls in palace costumes standing in the Imperial Garden. All of them are uniquely beautiful and graceful. They were playing and having fun at this time, and the cheerful laughter of warblers and swallows kept echoing in the imperial garden. What caught Lu Ningxuang's attention the most was Qin Mu, who was wearing a black and yellow dragon robe and sitting in the pavilion, drinking and having fun among the flowers. He was watching the dancers dance. Those dancers all have slim figures, plump waists, plump bodies, and smooth skin. They are draped in tulle, graceful, with their curves exposed. Especially when dancing, the tulle flies and the spring light is vaguely visible. This damn fool, Lu Ningxuang gritted her silver teeth, anger rising in her heart. Fortunately, before she came, she had guessed that Qin Mu's lust might just be disguised. Now it seems that this is totally wrong. This bastard is obviously a complete lecher and a fatuous emperor. Lu Ningxuang couldn't wait to rush into the royal garden with her sword and kill that damn Hun Jun. However, reason still allowed Lu Ningxuang to suppress the impulse in her heart. Although the Hun Jun was a Hun Jun, his strength was frighteningly powerful, and he easily blocked her strongest attack. Moreover, with so many people around her at this time, in her current state, it would be simply wishful thinking to assassinate this faint king again. Unless she can sleep alone. Then wait until the moment when the faint king is most relaxed and give him a fatal blow. But the premise is that she needs to give her body. Lu Ningxuang's eyes flashed slightly, her thoughts surging. At this time, Qin Mu was holding a wine glass, tasting the fine wine, and enjoying the singing and dancing. Sitting next to him were two young women with stunning looks. Both of these women are dressed in red makeup, they are delicate, like bright roses, exuding an alluring fragrance. It can be said that she is as beautiful as a fairy, and more gorgeous than any other. They were Hongluan and Hongxiu, the two former mistresses of Xiaoao King Qinwuji. Hongxiu is one of the three women left in the palace by King Xiaoao. After the death of King Xiaoao, the entire Prince Xiaoao palace was confiscated, and Hongxiu naturally gained relief and came to the palace. Qin Mu also liked the red sleeves quite a lot, and he often called for good luck, which meant that he got both rain and dew. Your Majesty, I think this dance is not good enough. Hongxiu snuggled lazily in Qin Mu's arms, ran her long and white jade fingers across Qin Mu's chest, and exhaled like a blue breath. Oh! Qin Mu raised his eyebrows, put down the wine glass in his hand, and looked at Hongxiu with interest. At this time, the red sleeves and peach-red palace skirt set off her figure and outlined her charming curves. Especially the delicate body with a hint of snow, like mutton fat and jade, which can be broken by a blow. His Majesty. Hongxiu's charming eyes were full of embarrassment, and she was very shy. She stretched out her green hands and hugged Qin Mu's neck, exhaling like a orchid rose. How can I serve you tonight? When Hongxiu spoke, her charming face slowly approached Qin Mu's ear. Her lips almost touched Qin Mu's ears, exhaling bursts of fragrance, so numb that it made his bones weak. If Qin Mu hadn't been used to all kinds of scenes, he might not have been able to resist. It has to be said that the vixen Hongxiu is indeed an enchanting creature of the calamity level. Qin Mu did not answer Hongxiu, but put down the wine glass in his hand and looked up, just in time to see Lu Ningxuang who had just arrived. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, then he waved and said calmly, "Come here, don't you like sword dancing? Come here and dance with a sword." Hearing Qin Mu's words, Lu Ningxuang's beautiful eyebrows frowned slightly. Did this foolish king really think she was a dancer? But this is a good opportunity. Mother, please. At this time, Baiu's voice reached Lu Ningxuang's ears, interrupting Lu Ningxuang's thoughts. Lu Ningxuang came back to her senses and looked up. At this time, a girl in green clothes had come to her, holding a long sword and handing it to Lu Ningxuang. "My dear, this is a sword." The girl in green lowered her head and spoke softly. Her voice was clear and sweet, full of youthfulness. Lu Ningxuang looked at the sword handed over by the girl in green, and then glanced at the dancing girls around her. Then he nodded and took the sword from the girl in green. Lu Ningxuang held the long sword in her hand and her eyes fell on the faint King Qin Mu. She took a deep breath, then tiptoed and jumped up. Swinging the long sword in his hand, a set of gorgeous and sharp swordsmanship was instantly displayed. The sword light roared, bringing up after images all over the sky. However, with no spiritual power in her body, the sword skills she displayed were not threatening at all. How about it, isn't this better than dancing alone? Qin Mu played with the wine glass in his hand and asked. Hongxiu. The meaning of what she just said was so obvious, didn't His Majesty hear it? Hongxiu forced a smile and said softly, the slave family has never seen such a dance, but it is an eye-opener for the slave family. And at this time, Lu Ningxuang also put away her sword and stood up, returning to where she was. She looked at Qin Mu and said coldly, are you satisfied? Although Lu Ningxuang had already decided to offer herself to create the next opportunity for assassination. But she did not immediately show her submission. Instead, she continued to maintain her previous cold and disdainful look to avoid suspicion. Qin Mu smiled and shook his head when he heard this. No, it's not enough. I just investigated and found that you can play the piano. I want to listen to the piano now. The piano is a skill, not something to please men. You don't deserve to listen to the piano. Lu Ningxuang refused. Hongxiu had already been stunned by the sight. What kind of woman is the sword dancing? How dare she contradict His Majesty? And dare to insult His Majesty in public that he is not worthy of listening to the piano? Oh my God! Not only Hongxiu, but the other women present also widened their eyes and looked at Lu Ningxuang in disbelief. At this time, they had only one thought in their hearts. It's over, His Majesty must be furious. Qin Mu smiled faintly, stood up, and walked towards Lu Ningxuang. Lu Ningxuang's heart skipped a beat. She suppressed her panic and looked into Qin Mu's eyes without flinching. Qin Mu stood in front of Lu Ningxuang, staring down at her. His black eyes were like an ancient cold pond, deep and cold, and breathtaking. He smiled and whispered. Very good, I like women with temper like you, it's more interesting to conquer them like this. Lu Ningxuang's heart trembled, and a sense of uneasiness quickly surged into her heart. And the next moment, Qin Mu directly bullied her, without giving her any chance to react. Lu Ningxuang felt the weight on her body, her pretty face turned pale, and she hurriedly said, Can we change places? But then, her voice turned into a whimper. Lu Ningxuang felt a burst of despair in her heart, and she found that she still underestimated the absurdity of Qin Mu. This tyrant, actually in public. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 63. The sun has set, the clouds are dim, and everything finally returns to peace. The imperial garden is a mess, full of beautiful scenes. At this time, Lu Ningxuang lies weakly among the flowers, her pretty face pale and tears streaming down her face. She lets a maid carefully wipe the marks on her body. Lu Ningxuang's eyes are dull, and she finds that this tyrant is not only licentious, but also shameless. There is another more outrageous thing, that is, this tyrant is never weak. His body is comparable to that of an ancient beast, as if he always has endless power. How did he do it with such a terrifying physique? Lu Ningxuang recalled her previous plan and suddenly found it ridiculous. She also wanted to give Qin Mu a fatal blow when he was relaxed, but now it seems to be a joke. My queen, I will help you take a bath. At this time, a maid came to Lu Ningxuang in small steps and said respectfully. Lu Ningxuang looked up and saw a full moon hanging in the sky outside the palace, emitting a hazy glow, reflecting her pale cheeks. Lu Ningxuang's beautiful eyes were red and tearful. She was sore all over now, how could she move at all? And after all this tossing and turning, she was already hungry. However, she still sat up stubbornly and walked towards the bath. Her pride and self-esteem would not allow her to give in. Alas! Lu Ningxuang sighed lightly and then walked into the hot spring bath. At this time, Qin Mu was lazily leaning on the soft couch, holding a cup of hot tea in his hand, tasting it slowly. Beside him, Hongxiu knelt on the ground, her arms wrapped around Qin Mu's legs, kneading and pressing gently, with gentle and delicate movements, beautiful eyes, and a charming smile. Qin Mu closed his eyes and enjoyed the warm and comfortable massage from Hongxiu. But he sighed slightly in his heart. Alas, what a boring and tasteless day. Qin Mu slowly opened his eyes and said lightly, "You stay with me tonight." Hongxiu was ecstatic when she heard this. She lowered her head shyly and said delicately, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Qin Mu nodded gently, and then said lightly, "Go and see if Lu Ningxuang has finished washing, and call her together." Hongxiu was secretly envious after hearing this. His Majesty has favored Lu Ningxuang all day, and he didn't expect that he would continue to favor her at night. This is really a great honor. "Yes, I obey your order," Hongxiu said respectfully. Then, she turned and left, and walked into the bathroom. At this time, Lu Ningxuang had finished washing and walked out of the hot spring. She was wearing a white gauze scarf, wrapping her body tightly to block the looming spring light. The exposed snow-white skin was as soft as a blow, like sheep-fat jade, bright and plump. However, her body was still a little sore, and she couldn't help but groan as she walked. Damn the tyrant, Lu Ningxuang gritted her teeth and hated him. This tyrant was not only licentious, but also didn't know how to cherish women. He was such a bastard. Fortunately, the painful torture was finally over, and she could have a good rest tonight. When she thought of those nightmare-like memories, Lu Ningxuang was terrified, and felt a dull pain all over her body, as if she was torn apart. She couldn't bear such torture a second time. At least for a short time, she didn't want to face Qin Mu, that inhuman guy, again. Squeak! At this time, the door suddenly opened. Lu Ningxuang was startled, and she raised her head suddenly, but saw a familiar charming face. "What are you doing here?" Lu Ningxuang was stunned and asked. To be honest, she didn't like this woman. Hongxiu swayed, and her lotus steps moved lightly. She stared at Lu Ningxuang coldly, with a charming smile on her lips, and said lightly, "His Majesty summoned me." Lu Ningxuang's heart trembled, and her face became even paler. Does this tyrant want her to sleep with him again? No. No. She will really die. Lu Ningxuang bit her teeth and shook her head firmly. Hongxiu saw her pale face, raised a little arc at the corner of her mouth, and said with a hint of sarcasm, "You have to think about it. You should know the means of His Majesty. If you refuse." Hearing this, Lu Ningxuang's pretty face became even paler, and her body subconsciously trembled slightly. Hongxiu saw Lu Ningxuang's performance, and the smile on her lips became even stronger. Feeling the other party's sarcastic eyes, Lu Ningxuang clenched her fists tightly and snorted coldly, "Go, who's afraid of who?" As she said, Lu Ningxuang followed Hongxiu out of the bathroom and went to the main hall. As soon as the two arrived at the main hall, they saw Qin Mu leaning on a chair with his eyes closed, drinking tea leisurely. She took a deep breath and walked towards Qin Mu. Hongxiu knelt on the ground from a distance and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, concubine Xuang is ready." After hearing this, Lu Ningxuang cursed him in her heart and knelt on the ground. Although she didn't know why Qin Mu asked her to come, since she was forced to agree, it would be better to obey him. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows when he heard this, opened his eyes and glanced at Lu Ningxuang. "How is it, have you recovered?" Qin Mu raised a smile at the corner of his mouth, looked at Lu Ningxuang with interest, his eyes filled with a playful light. Lu Ningxuang was furious and wanted to kill Qin Mu 1,000 times. But before she opened her mouth, she heard Hongxiu say softly, "Your Majesty, concubine Zhuang should not have recovered yet. I just saw her walking a little unnaturally." As she spoke, Hongxiu covered her mouth and giggled, "Charming. Lu Ningxuang. This bitch." Lu Ningxuang was angry and speechless, and she wanted to pounce on Hongxiu and tear her red lips. At this moment, Lu Ningxuang felt a strong desire to fight in her heart. She wanted to fight back. Women can either be best friends or become enemies. It is obvious that Hongxiu and Lu Ningxuang can't stand each other and have become enemies. Lu Ningxuang looked at Hongxiu and retorted, "Who said that?" I have recovered a long time ago." Hongxiu smiled lightly and said softly, "Sister Ningxuang, if it really doesn't work, don't be stubborn." "Humph," Lu Ningxuang snorted coldly, with a look of contempt on her face, "Fox spirit, I don't need your concern." Hearing this, Hongxiu was not angry, but just smiled and said, "Fox spirit, so what, your Majesty likes this, not like someone, lying there like a dead fish." Lu Ningxuang's face immediately turned red, and she retorted angrily, "You are the dead fish. That tyrant obviously likes me more, you are just jealous of me." "Jealous?" Hongxiu giggled, "jealous of you? Ha ha." Hongxiu covered her mouth and chuckled, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. Then, Hongxiu suddenly straightened her back, revealing the snow-capped mountains on her chest, and said jokingly, "Why am I jealous of you? Envious that you are smaller than me." Hearing Hongxiu's disparagement, Lu Ningxuang was immediately angry and said, My legs are even longer than yours." While Lu Ningxuang was talking, she fiddled with her slender and straight legs, not caring about the sudden exposure of her spring scenery. Hongxiu was not to be outdone, and also lifted her long skirt, stretched out her slender jade feet, stepped on the ground, and said, "My feet are more beautiful than yours. Sister Xuanfi often dances with swords, so I guess there are calluses on her heels." After saying that, Hongxiu sighed with regret. "Oh my, think about the rough appearance, it should be as old as the bark of an old tree." Hearing Hongxiu's ridicule, Lu Ningxuang's pretty face swelled red, and she was so angry that she almost vomited blood. This damn bitch. Although she often practices swordplay, with her level of cultivation, how could she easily develop calluses? Her feet are obviously as pink and smooth as before. Lu Ningxuang glared at Hongxiu, gnashing her teeth, and was extremely angry. Seeing this, Hongxiu didn't care at all, and even smiled more. "Your Majesty, whose feet do you think are better, mine or Sister Xuanfi's?" Hongxiu smiled at Qin Mu, with a natural charm. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 64. Qin Mu sat lazily on the dragon chair, watching the two people arguing quietly, and said calmly, "It's too far away, I can't see clearly. Come here and let me take a closer look before I can draw a conclusion." Lu Ningxuang was already dizzy with Hongxiu's anger. At this moment, she just wanted to tell the difference and win. She took off her stockings, revealing her smooth and white feet, as translucent as mutton fat jade. I saw the pink and slender jade toes, as clear as crystal lotus petals, round and full, exuding an alluring luster. Lu Ningxuang tossed her hair, stared at Hongxiu with her beautiful eyes, and scolded, "Come on, who is afraid of whom?" Seeing this, Hongxiu didn't say much and took off her shoes and socks, revealing her jade feet that looked like ivory carvings. Her jade toes are round and smooth, and her delicate nails are dotted with bright red danko, which are bright and attractive, exuding a light fragrance. The two jade feet are equally crystal clear, round, and beautiful, and magnificent. However, compared to Lu Ningxuang's fair and round body, Hongxiu's jade toes showed a faint crimson color, with a faint layer of fluorescence, which was beautiful, coquettish, and alluring. Looking at Hongxiu's pair of perfect jade feet, Qin Mu's eyes flashed with surprise. He raised his eyes to look at Hongxiu, with admiration in his eyes, and praised. I declare that Hongxiu wins this round. Hongxiu smiled coquettishly when she heard this, and said in a soft and numb voice, "Thank you, Your Majesty." After saying that, she looked at Lu Ningxuang and said provocatively, "Your Majesty said that my feet are more beautiful than yours. Do you accept it?" Lu Ningxuang looked at Hongxiu's arrogant posture, and her heart burned with anger. This damn vixen! If I don't teach this naughty fox a lesson today, she, Lu Ningxuang, won't be named Lu. Thinking of this, Lu Ningxuang glared at Hongxiu with her beautiful eyes, gritted her teeth and said, "I'm younger than you, more agile than you, and more tender than you. You old vixen." After hearing Lu Ningxuang's words, Hongxiu couldn't help laughing, covered her lips and said with a sweet smile, "Sister Xuanfei, for a little girl like you, Your Majesty slaps you on the butt. You don't even know what to do. What's there to be proud of?" Lu Ningxuang was speechless and choked again. Her heart skipped a beat and she scolded, Who said I didn't know?" The beautiful eyes of Hongxiu flowed, and she said provocatively, "Oh? Then you should show it off. Show it, show it." Lu Ningxuang looked upright and walked toward Qin Mu with her head held high. After walking to Qin Mu's side, Lu Ningxuang paused slightly, took a few deep breaths to adjust her breathing, and tried to stay calm. Then, she slowly bent down and squatted down. At the same time, there was silence and solemnity in the prince's mansion in Beijing Zhenbei, and the atmosphere was completely different from that of the palace. Zhang Luoxin was sitting on the main seat of the main hall of the prince's palace, dressed in green clothes and full of heroic spirit. She held her chin in her right hand and played with a hosta in her left hand. Her eyes seemed to travel through the void and fall on the distant Chang'an city. After a long time, she stood up slowly, with a cold murderous intent flashing in her eyes, and murmured, "Father, don't worry, I will definitely kill that faint king and avenge you." Afterwards, Zhang Luoxin calmed down, put on the simple jade hairpin again, and walked out of the main hall. Outside the main hall, there were 2 rows of black-clad guards, all wearing military uniforms and with tall and muscular bodies. "See Your Highness," all the guards said in unison, with stern expressions and resolute eyes. Zhang Luoxin nodded slightly and asked, "Have you ever found out where my father's body is now?" "I am reporting to Your Highness that my subordinates have sent 10 groups of spies into Chang'an. There were 5 people in each group. All of them failed." One of the attendants replied quickly. Hearing this, Zhang Luoxin frowned, and a cold light surged in his eyes. After her father, the king of Zhenbei, was brutally killed in the sky prison by the faint king, his body was not sent back to the north. Instead, he was left in Chang'an city and his whereabouts are still missing. Zhang Luoxin now has only 2 goals. The first is to welcome back the body of the father and return his soul to his hometown. The second is to kill the foolish king and avenge his father. During this period of time, although she had been on hold, she secretly sent more than a dozen waves of spies to sneak into Chang'an city to find out the news. But without exception, all of them lost contact inexplicably. Zhang Luoxin knew that those spies were definitely in danger. After all, Chang'an is the base camp of the Han Jun. It is heavily guarded and has countless strong men. After thinking for a long time, Zhang Luoxin suddenly raised his eyes to look at the night stars and said quietly, "No, we can't send people to die like this anymore. I want to personally investigate the situation in order to decide on the next plan." After saying that, she immediately ordered, "Send the order and order 3,000 tiger guards to assemble. Within half a stick of incense, set off at full speed and rush to Jiangnan County." "Yes, Your Highness," the guard responded respectfully. Zhang Luoshan waved his hand, motioning for him to retreat, and then said to another maid. Lu Qi, pass my order and the entire army is on standby. You cannot act without my order. Yes, Lu Qi felt blessed and hurriedly went down to handle it. After Lu Qi left, Zhang Luoshan took out a jade slip. After pouring her vitality into it, a picture scroll suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. In the painting, you can see thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, shrouded in clouds and mist, magnificent scenery, beautiful mountains and rivers, lush vegetation, spiritual animals and birds, and rare and exotic animals can be seen everywhere. This is the fertile Jiangnan County, the junction between the northern border and Chang'an City. If we can capture Jiangnan County, we can march straight in and conquer Chang'an. Zhang Luoshan murmured softly, his eyes gradually becoming fierce. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mi and Buletin Leng. Chapter 65. She took a deep breath, exerted force with her delicate hands, and instantly crushed the jade slip in her hand into powder. Then, she took steps towards the door. When she stepped out of the palace gate, a group of cavalry suddenly appeared at the door. 3,000 tiger guards have been assembled. Zhang Luoshan is dressed in military uniform, with a pretty face and a sinister expression, and an extraordinary majesty. Her eyes were calm, she looked around and said loudly. The foolish king is incompetent and has no virtue. The country is about to be destroyed and the family is destroyed. You are men from the north. How can you allow him to continue to harm the people and poison the common people? Today, I will lead you all to Jiangnan County to find out the reality of that faint king. Do you dare to go together? Zhang Luoshan's voice is sonorous and powerful, inspiring and making people's blood boil. I would like to follow His Highness. After hearing this, the 3,000 tiger guards all knelt down on one knee and shouted loudly, deafeningly. The momentum was fierce, like a sharp sword that wanted to pierce the sky. Zhang Luoshan nodded slightly, glanced at the brave and capable tiger guards in front of him, and solemnly ordered. Very good. I know that you are all brave men from the north. However, you must remember that our enemies are extremely cruel, and if you make the slightest mistake, you will definitely be doomed. Therefore, you must act with caution and never underestimate the enemy and advance rashly. Yes, the 3,000 tiger guards suddenly agreed upon hearing this, their momentum soaring into the sky, and their evil aura was overwhelming. Seeing this, Zhang Luoshan nodded with satisfaction, and then shouted loudly. Set off. Yes. The 3,000 tiger guards roared like wolves and tigers, and followed Zhang Luoshan's mighty departure from the palace, heading straight for Jiangnan County. However, at this moment, an old man suddenly appeared and stopped in front of Hu Benwei. Your Highness, you must never put yourself in danger. The old man's face was full of anxiety and he kept trying to dissuade Zhang Luoshan. Mr. Qi, you don't have to persuade me. Zhang Luoshan shook his head and said indifferently. My father was unjustly imprisoned, and as a daughter I can't seek justice for him, so how can I have the face to face my ancestors? The old man's face was full of anxiety, and he tried to dissuade him earnestly. I know that you want to eradicate that faint king, but since you have a respected status and carry the spiritual trust of more than 600,000 soldiers in the north, you still need to be careful. I have my own plan. Zhang Luoshan waved his hand to stop the old man from continuing to speak. She has been practicing with great concentration during this period, working hard to improve her strength. But she couldn't find any state of cultivation. Her father's death affected her state of mind like a demonic obstacle. Every time when she was preparing to practice, she would always think of that foolish king who was full of evil. This emotion almost occupied her entire mind. It's like an inner demon that lingers. Zhang Luoshan knew that if he didn't resolve this matter, he might not be able to make any progress in his life. That's why she chose to go to Jiangnan County in person. Alas, Your Highness. The old man sighed, feeling heartbroken. He knew that Zhang Luoshan was stubborn, and Zhu Niu could not pull him back from any decision he made, so he had no choice but to shake his head. Alas, I understand. Since His Highness is determined to go, I will go with you. Looking at the stubborn Zhang Luoshan, Mr. Qi sighed and stopped persuading him. No need, Mr. Qi, I am enough. Zhang Luoshan shook his head and refused. Jiangnan County is quite far from the northern border. I may not be able to come back for a while. The northern border still needs your presence, Mr. Qi. Although what Zhang Luoshan said was reasonable, Mr. Qi's attitude was still very firm. In this case, Your Highness will personally take charge of the northern border, and I will let Jiangnan County go to find out the truth. Zhang Luoshan frowned and was about to say something else, but Mr. Qi had already turned away. Your Highness, there is no need to say anything more. Let this be the case. Then he looked at the 3,000 tiger guards and shouted, Generals, listen to my order and follow me to Jiangnan County to gather information for the vanguard of the Zhenbei army. Huh! In an instant, a cold light flashed, murderous intent filled the air, and the air plummeted. Here! 3,000 tiger guards suddenly took the order, with a sound like thunder that shook the heaven and earth. Let's go and avenge the prince. Kill, kill, kill. In an instant, a roar that shook the world suddenly exploded, like rolling thunder. Immediately, under the leadership of Mr. Qi, the 3,000 tiger guards turned into a torrent and quickly disappeared in front of Zhang Luoshan. Seeing this, Zhang Luoshan had no choice but to say nothing more and turned back to mobilize the army, ready to respond to Hu Banwei and Qi Lao at any time. The only advantage the north has now is that it is more popular with the people than the Han-Jun. During this period of time, the Northern Territory has recruited many strong men who came voluntarily. If they can be used well, they will be a rare force. But if the Northern Territory wants to truly shake the rule of Qin, it is not enough to rely on these alone, it also needs the top combat power. But at present, the strongest combat power in the north is only half-step saint, and it cannot be easily attacked. That's why Zhang Luoshan was so steady, not daring to rush forward for the sake of success, nor did he dare to directly attack with his army. After all, this is not a war between mortal nations. Whoever has the largest army will win. Large armies can only be used in regular battles. If it reaches the final stage of life and death, then it is necessary to fight for the foundation and the real top combat power. Sometimes a top-notch combat power can instantly turn the tide of the battle. What the northern border lacks most now is top-notch combat power. Therefore, Zhang Luoshan must find ways to gain more advantages from regular battles. And Jiangnan County is part of her plan. I hope Mr. Qi can return smoothly. Zhang Luoshan murmured, his eyes dim. The next day, the sun was just beginning to shine, and the sky in the east was pale. Chang'an City, inside the palace, deep in the imperial garden. Qin Mu woke up from the open-air bed of 100 square meters with difficulty, and all he saw were beautiful women with fragrant arms and legs. Your Majesty, are you awake? As soon as Qin Mu opened his eyes, a fragrant breeze blew across his face, soft and charming. A pretty and beautiful face smiled sweetly at him, and her voice was extremely soft and sweet. It was Hengziu. However, Qin Mu had no time to pay attention to her at this time. At this time, Qin Mu felt the surging power in his body, and an excited smile suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. Primordial Spirit Realm. After a night of revelry last night, he successfully advanced to the Primordial Spirit Realm using the Immortal Level Dual Cultivation Technique. He could clearly feel that his current strength was several times stronger than before. Even if fighting against ordinary PQ and Shen, the winning rate is more than 99%. The remaining 0.1% is to give face to the peak Yuan-Shen cultivators. After all, when a cultivator reaches the Yuan-Shen realm, his body and soul have all undergone a qualitative transformation. The whole person will undergo a heaven-defying change, and every move will have the power to destroy the world. There is a huge watershed between the Yuan-Shen mirror and the Shenzang mirror. The Shenzang realm is the process of digging out the treasure house of the human body. The Yuan-Shen realm is the process of breaking down barriers and peeping into the mystery of the origin. Once you enter the Yuan-Shen realm, you can condense your divine thoughts, communicate with the laws of heaven and earth, and draw the power of heaven and earth to bless yourself. And those with extraordinary talents can even open up a paradise in their bodies, condense the Yuan-Shen, and transform into gods. Only by entering the Yuan-Shen realm can you truly begin to become a strong person. Therefore, it is as difficult as ascending to the sky to advance to the Yuan-Shen realm, and countless proud children of heaven may not be able to cross it in their entire lives. And Qin Mu, with the help of the mysterious dual cultivation technique, broke through the shackles and stepped into the Yuan-Shen in just one night. If this spread to the outside world, it would definitely cause a great uproar, attracting the envy and jealousy of countless cultivators. Who? Slowly exhaling a breath of turbid air, Qin Mu slowly stood up. At this moment, his muscles bulged, his bones burst, and his blood flowed like a rushing river. Just a ray of pressure that overflowed made the surrounding scene blurred, and it seemed that there was a scene of mountains collapsing, and it seemed to shatter the sky. Not bad. Feeling the surging power in his body, Qin Mu smiled with satisfaction. Your Majesty, I made porridge for you today. Do you like it? Seeing Qin Mu stand up, Hongxiu immediately picked up the steaming jade bowl and handed it to Qin Mu. Smelling the tempting fragrance, looking at the crystal clear white fungus and lotus seed porridge in the bowl, Qin Mu nodded slightly, but he didn't eat. Instead, he looked down and looked around, and finally found Lu Ningxuang, who was still unconscious in a corner of the 100-meter bed. Qin Mu raised his lips slightly and gently smeared the tremella and lotus seed porridge on her face. Feeling the strange feeling on her face, Lu Ningxuang frowned slightly, her eyelashes trembled, and slowly opened her beautiful eyes. Don't sleep, it's time to get up and eat. Qin Mu smiled faintly and reached out to support her. Ah! No, no. Lu Ningxuang's body stiffened suddenly, and she shook her head repeatedly to refuse, and a layer of blush appeared on her pretty face. When she thought about how she took the initiative to do that last night to prove that she was stronger than Hongxiu, her heart was extremely complicated. How could she be so obsessed? And she was really scared. What happened last night was too crazy, and she would never forget it for the rest of her life. How can you not eat? Qin Mu raised his eyebrows, helped her up, and comforted her softly. Get up and wash up, and let's continue playing games after breakfast. Oh, by the way, I won't go to court these days, so I can accompany you all the time. Lu Ningxuang. 3 days later. A message came from the court, which made Qin Mu finally think of going to court. Lu Ningxuang, who worked day and night, got precious rest time temporarily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 66. In the court, there were many ministers. Qin Mu sat on the dragon throne, overlooking the ministers, and asked calmly. What do you want to report, my dear ministers? After this, the ministers exchanged glances with each other, and finally the national teacher stood up to speak. Your Majesty, according to reliable information, we learned that the North Territory has sent an unknown number of Tiger Guards to inquire about the news around Jiangnan County, and it seems that they are planning to make some plans for Jiangnan County. Please make a decision quickly. Hearing the words of the national teacher, Qin Mu raised his eyebrows. The Tiger Guards are the most elite troops in the Zhenbei army. Every soldier has been strictly trained and is the sharpest blade in the hands of the king of the North Territory. The North Territory sent the Tiger Guards to lurk around Jiangnan County to inquire about the news. I am afraid that they are going to Jiangnan County for its geographical location. It seems that Zhang Luoshan is really ready to send troops. Are you finally going to send troops, Zhang Luoshan? The flowers you made me wait for are almost withered. Qin Mu's cold eyes flashed slightly, and he couldn't help but mutter to himself in his heart. In fact, he could send Luoxiu or other saint puppets to the northern border to kill the world and settle the matter once and for all. The saint realm is already the top combat power in this era when the emperor does not appear. When the 9 saints appear, except for some truly transcendent holy places, almost no one can stop them. But Qin Mu did not do so. Instead, he has been waiting for Zhang Luoshan to send troops, so that he can continue to do all kinds of foolish things to get system rewards. The Northern Tiger Guards are not worth mentioning. You have to bother me for such a small matter. Qin Mu leaned lazily on the dragon chair, snorted coldly, and showed impatience. I work hard day and night, very tired, and I don't have time to deal with such insignificant things. The ministers were speechless when they heard this. Are you afraid that you have overworked on the dragon bed? They really admired their own emperor's shamelessness. I have seen tyrants, but I have never seen such a shameless tyrant. He can describe lust and debauchery as hard work day and night, and cruelty and bloodlust as diligence and love for the people. No one can do that. However, when they thought of the attitude of Emperor Qin Tian before and after seeing the immortality medicine, they suddenly felt that it was nothing. The Qin royal family, passed down from generation to generation. Your Majesty, although it is a trivial matter, if you leave it alone, it may endanger the safety of Jiangnan County and the imperial city. I hope your Majesty will think twice. The national teacher Du Yulin sighed and suggested respectfully. Well, in this case, let's just send a few people to solve it. Qin Mu waved his hand casually and said nonchalantly. This remark once again caused the ministers to feel helpless. If it were really that simple, they would not have come to the court to discuss this matter. The state teacher looked bitter, and after a moment of silence, he still bowed and said, Your Majesty, although the northern border Tiger Guards are nothing, they are backed by the Zhenbei army after all, and cannot be dealt with easily. Yes, Your Majesty, this matter is extraordinary. The northern border Tiger Guards are an important force guarding the gates of the northern border. Now that they are all dispatched, we must not be careless. Your Majesty, I heard that this time it was Qi Angguo of the northern border who personally led the troops. Qi Angguo is one of the pillars of the northern border. If we send a few people at random, I am afraid it will be difficult to deal with it. If something goes wrong, the consequences will be unpredictable. The ministers knelt on the ground one after another, and followed the advice earnestly. In fact, they were not too worried about the northern border Tiger Guards. After all, no matter how many Tiger Guards there were, they were just ordinary soldiers. They could still handle it, and Qi Angguo was the one they were really worried about. Qi Angguo had a great reputation in the northern border, which was no less than the Zhenbei king and the Zhenbei king's daughter Zhang Luoshan. It is said that Qi Angguo has a very high talent for cultivation. He has reached the Shenzang realm at a young age, and his strength is unfathomable. Moreover, Qi Angguo is cautious and resourceful. When he was young, he was a fierce general in the northern territory. He followed the then king of Zhenbei in the wars and won countless brilliant achievements. Later, when he was a little older, he retired to the second line and became a behind-the-scenes strategist, continuing to make plans for the northern territory and sitting firmly in the rear. Qi Angguo has always been called the backbone of the northern territory. As long as he is there, the northern territory is destined to be in chaos. Such a person, who controls the elite force of the Tiger Guard, is not someone they can afford to provoke. Therefore, the ministers are ready to go to court to discuss. Humph. Xuanhuan is powerful, but he is just powerful. He dares to attack my imperial city alone. Qin Mu sneered, his eyes cold. Your Majesty, calm down. Du Yulin, the national teacher, bowed his head quickly and whispered, that's not what we meant. Okay, you don't have to say anything more. Qin Mu waved his sleeves and interrupted Du Yulin's next words, saying coldly. The king of Huainan should have nothing to do now, so let him suppress the so-called Tiger Guards. Your Majesty, this. Du Yulin raised his head, a look of astonishment appeared on his face, and he was interrupted by Qin Mu again when he was about to speak. No need to say more, let's just leave it at that. Qin Mu glanced at the ministers indifferently, pass the order the king of Huainan to lead his subordinates to suppress the Tiger Guards and capture the traitor Xuanhuan. After that, he left with a wave of his sleeves. Your Majesty, isn't there no one in charge of southern Xinjiang? The national teacher Du Yulin's face changed suddenly, and he couldn't help but exclaimed. His face was full of anxiety, and he immediately got up and chased out of the palace. But at this time, Qin Mu had already disappeared without a trace. Alas! Looking at the empty corridor, Du Yulin couldn't help but sigh. In this way, southern Xinjiang is not empty at all. If the barbarians outside southern Xinjiang invade, the consequences will be disastrous. At this time, in the court, the faces of many court officials were all frozen. Your Majesty. The faces of the officials were hesitant, not knowing what to say. Your Majesty is too careless this time. How can you let the king of Huainan attack? Wouldn't this give the barbarians an opportunity to take advantage of? How can you be so absurd? An old official trembled his lips, his face was pale, his legs were weak, and he almost collapsed to the ground. The king of Huainan guarded the southern Xinjiang and resisted the barbarians outside the southern Xinjiang. At this time, the king of Huainan suddenly attacked, which would inevitably lead to the dispersion of the power of southern Xinjiang and the inability to take care of the border of southern Xinjiang. If these barbarians take advantage of this to attack, southern Xinjiang will be in danger. This is the biggest taboo among the taboos. Your Majesty is so confused. Someone sighed sadly, his eyes red. The ministers were also in mixed feelings. If something goes wrong with Your Majesty's nonsense, it would be a big trouble. The national teacher Du Yulin returned to the hall, smiled bitterly, and comforted the ministers. Everyone, there is a life-forbidden land between Nanjiang and the barbarians. The barbarians dare not act rashly, so there is no need to worry for the time being. After hearing this, the worries in their hearts were reduced a little. But they were still frowning. Those barbarians did not dare to set foot in Dakan easily. But they are an uncertain factor after all. Without the presence of the king of Huainan, they might really invade one day. For a while, the whole court was filled with a repressive and solemn atmosphere. There is no doubt that the ministers thought that Qin Mu's order was a foolish act. And it was a foolish act that ignored the consequences and did not consider the overall situation. On the other side, Qin Mu had just returned to Viang Palace. Ding, it is detected that the host is robbing the south wall to repair the north wall, ignoring the overall situation, and his foolish actions have disappointed the ministers. The foolish reward is obtained, the real dragon egg. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 67. The cold prompt sound of the system resounded in Qin Mu's mind. Real dragon egg. Qin Mu was slightly stunned, and then his eyes lit up slightly, and he hurriedly checked the system information. On the system panel, the originally dim real dragon egg icon suddenly lit up with a bright golden light. Real dragon egg, unhatched. Quality, unknown. Introduction, born from the Chaos-born ancestral dragon, a real dragon cub with dragon blood. The specific ability can only be known after hatching. Tip: please hatch this real dragon egg as soon as possible. After hatching, you can get the blessing of the dragon soul, which can make the host's physical strength even higher, and it is possible to obtain the Dragon Clan secret technique. After reading the introduction of this egg, Xuanhuan's mood instantly became excited. Is this still a real dragon egg bred by the ancestral dragon? I will definitely hatch this egg. Xuanhuan's eyes were fiery. As an emperor, how could he not have a real dragon as a pet? This real dragon egg can be said to have touched Xuanhuan's heart. Xuanhuan was overwhelmed with emotion when he thought that after hatching a real dragon, he could step on it and travel the world. If the 9-dragon Agarwood chariot is full of majesty, then stepping on a real dragon is cool. Who can resist a real dragon mount? If the real dragon egg knew what Xuanhuan was thinking at this time, it would definitely complain. Who understands, my family? I am a great dragon, and my fate as a mount has been arranged before I hatched. But Xuanhuan doesn't care what the dragon egg thinks. He is the master. Xuanhuan took out the real dragon egg with golden light from the system space and observed it carefully. The real dragon egg is oval in shape, about the size of a basketball. It is red all over, and the surface is covered with mysterious and obscure patterns, like runes. The most peculiar thing is that there is a lifelike portrait engraved on the eggshell, like a living thing. It was a giant dragon coiling in the air, looking up and howling. The dragon's eyes looked down, dominating the world, as if looking down on all living beings. The dragon seemed to be roaring, as if it was competing with some existence, faintly revealing the terrifying momentum of dominating the sky and looking down on the ages. Just staring at the dragon's shadow, Xuanhuan felt a palpitation in his heart. Is this Zilong? Xuanhuan looked at it intently, and his heartbeat accelerated. What a strong deterrent! Xuanhuan narrowed his eyes, feeling the terrifying dragon's might, and his heart was slightly shaken. System. After a moment, he retracted his gaze and called the system. How to hatch? Xuanhuan asked. Ding, there are 2 ways to hatch, one is automatic hatching by the system, and the other is hatching by the host. Please choose. Hatch it yourself? How to hatch it yourself? Listening to the introduction of the system, Xuanhuan was stunned. Could it be that it is like an old hen laying eggs, sitting on the buttocks to hatch? Using the host's own blood essence as a guide, and then constantly nurturing with spiritual power, it should be able to hatch successfully. Xuanhuan frowned slightly and asked again. What is the difference between system hatching and my own hatching? Host hatching can add a trace of invisible bond with the true dragon cub after it breaks out of the shell, making it easier for it to get close to you. The system explained. In that case, let me hatch it myself. After thinking for a moment, Xuanhuan decided to hatch it himself. Xuanhuan sat cross-legged and cut open his palm with his right index finger. In an instant, a drop of golden blood emerged, emitting a dazzling brilliance. Then, the drop of blood slowly seeped into the true dragon egg and merged with the true dragon on the eggshell. As this drop of blood essence fell into the true dragon egg, the true dragon egg suddenly trembled violently, and at the same time issued bursts of high-pitched chirping, as if it was very excited. The next moment, the real dragon egg suddenly burst into a brilliant glow, illuminating the surroundings. Buzz! The golden light on the real dragon egg circulated, becoming brighter and brighter, and finally almost illuminated the entire Vyang Palace. Xuanhuan's mind moved, and he immediately poured all his spiritual energy into the real dragon egg. As the real dragon egg became brighter and brighter, Xuanhuan clearly felt that a majestic and vast power spread from the real dragon egg. Crack! Xuanhuan even clearly heard a burst of shattering sounds. Then, the real dragon egg trembled suddenly. A ball of flames rose up, covering the entire Vyang Palace, burning fiercely, as if a big sun was hanging in the air. Rumble! The glow on the real dragon egg became more and more intense, and in the end, there was even thunder flashing. The thunder kept rolling, as if it wanted to explode the void and destroy everything. Qin Mu raised his head and looked at the real dragon egg floating in the air, his eyes full of expectation. I wonder what kind of real dragon this egg will be after it hatches. Domineering. Or mighty and tall. Or both. Boom. The next moment, the real dragon egg suddenly exploded, fragments flew, and countless light spots burst out. In the flickering light and shadow, a small and exquisite golden dragon covered with golden scales and a thin dragon tail swaying behind its back appeared in front of Qin Mu. Golden dragon horns, dragon claws, dragon tail. Every part contains extreme sharpness and domineering. It opened its golden eyes, exuding a violent breath, and a pair of vertical pupils glowed with a holy and majestic luster. At this moment, Qin Mu seemed to see a golden dragon, tearing the sky, looking down on the 8 wastelands and 6 directions, and crossing the sky. Is this the legendary real dragon cub? Qin Mu murmured. Although the golden scales on the little golden dragon were extremely thin, they were extremely tough and shone with a deep cold light. As soon as it appeared, it immediately opened its mouth and sucked. Huh! In an instant, the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth in the entire Vyang palace was devoured. Such a change alarmed the entire palace. One by one, the guards guarding the imperial city ran to investigate, but before they approached the Vyang palace, they were blocked by a golden barrier. The golden barrier was surrounded by brilliance, covering the entire Vyang palace in a hazy state, and no one could guess what was going on inside. Then, the dark god guards also appeared from the dark and dispersed all the guards. On the other side, Qin Mu looked at the short loli with dragon horns in front of him, his eyes full of circles. Where is the domineering side? This is not a real dragon cub, this is clearly a baby loli. Moreover, this baby loli has no hair on her body. The little Lolita with dragon horns opened her big cute eyes and tilted her head to look at Qin Mu. Suddenly, she walked in front of Qin Mu with her short legs, stretched out her chubby arms, hugged Qin Mu's thighs and said coquettishly, "Dad." Qin Mu. Little Lolita with dragon horns. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mi and Buletin Leng. Chapter 68. Qin Mu's mouth twitched slightly, and his forehead was covered with black lines. At this moment, Qin Mu suddenly doubted whether there was something wrong with the real dragon egg given by the system. Otherwise, why did such a cute little loli hatch out? Shouldn't it be a domineering real dragon? Qin Mu was speechless at this moment. How can this be used as a mount? If he really rode such a soft and cute little dragon girl to go out to fight, Qin Mu felt that he would probably be laughed at by the enemy. Others are tall and mighty mounts, but when it comes to him, the style suddenly changes and becomes such a cute mount. The picture is too beautiful, I dare not imagine. Qin Mu wants to cry. Dad. Seeing Qin Mu ignoring her, the little dragon horn loli pouted her pink and tender mouth and continued to act coquettishly. The little baby voice is soft and sticky, with a hint of sweet cream fragrance, which can melt everything. Qin Mu's eyes twitched a few times, and he lowered his head to carefully look at the little Lolita with dragon horns that only reached his thighs. Her skin was fair and moist, her facial features were delicate, and her eyes were black and clear. She looked like a porcelain doll, with eyelashes that curled up like butterfly wings, a straight and pretty nose, red lips and white teeth, and a pair of big eyes full of spirituality. The most eye-catching thing was the pair of small dragon horns on her head. The whole body was golden, crystal clear, emitting a faint glow, and faintly visible light blue glittering. Above the dragon horns, there was a mysterious rhythmic fluctuation, which seemed to contain some kind of great law. Although she was less than 1.5 meters tall, her waist was slender and soft, her body lines were smooth, her skin was flawless, and she exuded a faint crystal luster. A pair of small white jade feet stepped on the ground, and the little feet were round and cute, as perfect as two works of art. There was not a single hair on her small body, and she was as clean as jade, without any impurities, as if she was carved from the purest gemstone. Seeing Chinmu staring at her, the little Lolita with dragon horns blinked her eyes, her little face full of confusion. Very cute. Looks very cute. But in any case, it has nothing to do with the dragon Chinmu imagined. However, becoming a dragon knight in another sense is not a bad idea. Chinmu looked at this delicate face, and suddenly had other ideas in his mind. Dad, why do you keep staring at me? The little Lolita with dragon horns seemed to sense some danger, her cheeks blushed, and she shrank her head in fear. Chinmu collected his thoughts, squatted down, stroked the little head of the little Lolita with dragon horns, and said softly, because you are cute. Really? The little girl cheered and jumped for joy after hearing Chinmu's words, threw herself into Chinmu's arms, and giggled. Daddy, you are so nice, you are the best daddy in the world. Then she stepped lightly on the ground, tapped her toes lightly, and landed lightly on Chinmu's shoulder. She blinked her big eyes and stared at Chinmu for a long time. Then she stretched out her chubby little hand and pulled Chinmu's cheek. The little Lolita with dragon horns grinned, revealing a row of white teeth, and said in a baby voice, he, Daddy, your face is smoother than mine. Chinmu's mouth twitched, and he grabbed the little Lolita's fist, put it in his palm and kneaded it, pretending to be vicious and said, Little thing, if you dare to pull it again, believe it or not, I will spank you. The little Lolita with dragon horns was so scared that she retracted her hand and begged for mercy. Ouch, Daddy, be gentle, it hurts, it hurts. Chinmu released his fingers, shook his head, and turned to leave the hall. He found that this little Lolita with dragon horns looked cute and well behaved, but in fact she was very brave. Hey, Daddy, wait for me. The little Lolita with dragon horns quickly chased after him, grabbed Chinmu's clothes, and jumped beside him. Chinmu found her a piece of clothes and asked her to change into them. I have to say that it is really a good thing that she has no clothes to wear after the transformation. After the little girl changed her clothes, she suddenly changed her appearance. She was originally pink and cute, and turned into a beautiful girl. She was dazzling, like an exquisite doll, beautiful beyond description. Daddy, where is this place? The little Lolita Longjiao put on her clothes, stood beside Chinmu, and looked around curiously. Chinmu had a blank expression and replied, This is Chang'an City, and it is also your home. Chang'an City, the little Lolita Longjiao tilted her head and looked around, looking confused. Chinmu rolled his eyes slightly, Don't think about it, with your brain capacity, you can't figure it out. Oh. The little Lolita nodded thoughtfully. Then, the little Lolita Longjiao threw herself on Chinmu again, her big watery eyes were full of mist, and she looked like she was about to cry. She said softly in a cute and tender voice, Dad, I'm hungry. Chinmu looked helpless, Then I'll take you to eat. Did he find a mount for himself, or did he find an ancestor for himself? What a sin! When she heard about eating, the little girl's eyes lit up immediately, and she hugged Chinmu's cheek and rubbed it flatteringly, with saliva flowing down her white skin. Daddy, you are so nice. Wait, wipe your saliva first before talking. Daddy, you won't dislike me, right? Woo-wah. Stop being cute. Also, don't call me daddy in the future. I'm your master, understand? Call me daddy if you want. Do you believe I'll spank you? I can't hear you, I can't hear you. Chinmu took the little Lolita with the dragon horns and walked out of the Vyang Palace. Your Majesty. The shadow guard saluted respectfully, looking at the cute little Lolita with dragon horns behind Chinmu, all of them were surprised. The little Lolita with dragon horns looked at everyone's puzzled eyes, stuck out her tongue, and quietly stepped back 2 steps to hide behind Qin Mu. Qin Mu waved his hand calmly and said, "You can leave." As ordered. The shadow guards responded in unison and left one after another. When all the shadow guards disappeared from the field of vision, the little Lolita with dragon horns poked her head out from behind Qin Mu and looked curiously in the direction where the shadow guards left. "Dad, why do they all call you His Majesty? Is your last name Bai?" asked the little Lolita. Qin Mu's mouth twitched. "Of course not." "Then why do they call you His Majesty?" The little Lolita tilted her head. Qin Mu was too lazy to explain, and took the little Lolita Longjiao straight to the imperial kitchen of the palace. In the imperial kitchen, several old men of similar age were cooking at the moment. A variety of seasonings, ingredients, side dishes, etc. were placed on the table, which was dazzling, delicious, and full of spiritual energy. Qin Mu and the little Lolita Longjiao were recognized by an old man as soon as they walked into the kitchen threshold. The old man knelt down immediately, and even didn't bother to put down the spatula on the stove. He ran over in a hurry, knelt in front of Qin Mu, and said excitedly, "This old slave pays homage to His Majesty. Get up." Qin Mu raised his hand and said lightly, "Is there food now?" "Your Majesty, it's ready. Just need to cook it a little bit," the old man said excitedly. Qin Mu nodded, pointed at the little Lolita with dragon horns and said, "Let her eat first." The old man nodded repeatedly, "Okay, I'll prepare it now." Soon, the old man brought 2 bowls of food with aura and fragrance. The little Lolita with dragon horns frowned slightly when she saw this. "Grandpa, this is too little, not enough for me to fill my teeth." The old man hesitated for a moment and said, "Your Highness, don't look at the small amount, but these are all top-grade spiritual meat and top-grade spiritual materials, and the energy contained is very strong." The little Lolita with dragon horns shook her head, then stretched out her 2 little hands, one in each hand, and drank the soup in the bowl with a gulp. She wiped her little mouth and said with unsatisfied feeling, "Too little, I want to eat more." The old man paused, a little confused. He didn't expect that this prince looked so young, but he could eat so much. "Then I'll make some more for you." The old man immediately went to prepare. Soon, the 3rd bowl, the 4th bowl, the 5th bowl, until the 98th bowl. The old man's hands holding the plate were shaking violently. And the little Lolita with dragon horns was like a glutton, putting one mouthful after another into her mouth, unable to stop at all, which made the old man dumbfounded. Finally, the little Lolita with dragon horns ate from day to night after finishing the 1848th bowl. The old man finally cried, kneeling with tears and snot, and said to Qin Mu, "Your Majesty, this prince has eaten up the food stored in the imperial kitchen for the next half-month." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 69. Daddy, I'm not full yet. The little dragon-horned girl touched her belly and mumbled in a baby voice. Hearing this, the old man almost fainted. Qin Mu was speechless. He suspected that this thing was not a real dragon cub at all, but the reincarnation of Dowdy. Qin Mu touched the little dragon-horned girl's head and smiled, "Let's do this tonight." The little dragon-horned girl pursed her lips, "Daddy is naughty." Qin Mu's mouth twitched, and he was too lazy to pay attention to her, and turned to walk towards the bedroom. The little dragon-horned girl hurriedly followed. Along the way, the little girl was like a husky that had broken free, running wild and having fun, and couldn't stop for a moment. "Daddy, what is this? Daddy. This thing looks so fun, can I play with it?" Daddy, the flowers over there look delicious. Daddy, what is that red thing? Daddy, are you tired? Qin Mu's face twitched. This girl is really annoying, making a lot of noise and never stopping. Qin Mu once again doubted whether this little girl was a dragon. The dragon clan is a top dominant clan, how could there be such a talkative descendant? Qin Mu couldn't help but complain. Daddy, what's my name? Suddenly, the little Lolita stopped and asked this question with her head tilted. Qin Mu was slightly stunned, glanced at the ordinary figure of the little Lolita with dragon horns, and then casually said, "Your name is Long Xiao Xiao." The little Lolita with dragon horns nodded as if she understood. Long Xiao Xiao, my name is Xiao Xiao, Long Xiao Xiao. Qin Mu held his forehead, don't read it? He the little Lolita with dragon horns said with a smile. Qin Mu rubbed his temples, ignored the little Lolita's chattering voice, and ordered, you are not allowed to speak without my permission in the future, do you hear me? Oh, got it. The little Lolita with dragon horns nodded obediently. Also, you have to call me master in the future, do you hear me? Okay, Dad. Qin Mu took a deep breath and ignored her. Soon, Qin Mu took the little Lolita with him back to the bedroom. When passing by the garden, the little girl suddenly pointed ahead and said in surprise, huh? There is water. Qin Mu looked in the direction pointed by the little girl. Not far ahead, there was a stream with clear spring water flowing. Daddy, I want to take a bath. The little girl with dragon horns trotted to Qin Mu, pulled his sleeve, looked up at him, and said coquettishly. Qin Mu looked down at the little girl with dragon horns, sighed lightly, and said, go take a bath. Great, the little girl with dragon horns cheered and jumped over. Standing by the stream, she touched the stream with her little face, and after feeling the cool touch from the stream, she said excitedly, wow! The water is cool, so comfortable. As she said that, she dived and jumped into the stream with a splash, splashing a wave and rippling. Looking at the little Lolita with dragon horns swimming happily in the water, Qin Mu shook his head helplessly and turned to walk into the bedroom. In the bedroom, Xuanhuan was playing the piano, and the beautiful and pleasant music resounded throughout the palace, like crying and complaining, graceful and soft. After seeing Qin Mu's figure, Xuanhuan's beautiful eyes bloomed with surprise, and she quickly stood up and knelt, saying respectfully, Your Majesty, you are back. Qin Mu hummed lightly and said, well, you continue to play yours, don't worry about me. Xuanhuan nodded gently, continued to sit back in her original position, and slowly plucked the strings of the piano with her slender jade fingers. At this moment, the bedroom was very quiet, with only the sound of the piano. Qin Mu closed his eyes and rested on the jade legs of a beautiful palace maid, and suddenly felt very comfortable. Without that little girl chirping in his ears, the world is really quiet. Qin Mu lay on the slender and round thighs of the beautiful palace maid, enjoying the rare tranquility leisurely. This kind of life is the daily life that the emperor should have. The daily life of taking care of the baby just now must be his wrong way of opening. However, just as this thought came up, the sound of the piano stopped abruptly. Qin Mu frowned slightly and slowly opened his eyes. He found that the little Lolita with dragon horns was lying on the head of the bed, blinking her beautiful black eyes at him. Xuanhuan on the side was stunned, obviously startled by the sudden intrusion of the little Lolita with dragon horns. Daddy! The little girl opened her mouth, revealing a row of cute white teeth, and said sweetly, I've finished washing. Qin Mu closed his eyes with a headache, and was silent for a moment, saying, since you're done, go to bed quickly. The little girl pouted and said aggrievedly, no, I want to sleep with Daddy. Qin Mu looked strange and said, why? The little girl raised her head and said seriously, because this way I can protect Daddy. Qin Mu was stunned and was actually a little moved. Dad, are you very touched? Can you reward me with some delicious chicken legs? The little girl stretched out her pink tongue and licked her lips, staring at Qin Mu eagerly. Qin Mu was speechless, and the touch just now disappeared in an instant. "Your Majesty, this is..." Yunyaner asked hesitantly. Before Qin Mu could say anything, the little girl jumped to Yunyaner's side as if she had discovered a new world. Looking at Yunyaner's snow-capped mountains, he asked in shock, "Sister, why is yours so big?" The little girl looked at Yunyaner, then looked down at her own flat land, obviously not understanding. Yunyaner's pretty face flushed, showing embarrassment, biting her red lips, and whispered, "Because my sister is an adult, it will be bigger." The little girl nodded as if she had suddenly realized something, and said, "So that's the case, then when can I become an adult?" Yunyaner pursed her thin lips and whispered, "When my sister grows up, she can become an adult." The little girl's eyes were bright, she patted her chest, and vowed, "I will work hard to grow up." Then the next second, she seemed to react suddenly, and a trace of realization appeared in her eyes. "No wonder my father named me Long Xiao Xiao, it turns out that it's because I'm too young." After that, she turned her head to look at Qin Mu. Qin Mu also turned his head to look aside, looking like he didn't know anything. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. As expected of the Dragon Clan, they have strong learning ability and grasp the key to the problem in just a few words. The little loli puffed her cheeks and muttered, "Humph, Dad is bad and bullies me." After that, the little loli walked out with her small legs and muttered, "I've decided, I want to sleep in a separate room from my dad." Hearing this, Qin Mu's mouth twitched slightly, but his eyes showed a look of surprise. This little ancestor finally left. "Your Majesty, this is..." Yunyaner was a little confused, looking at Qin Mu, hesitant to speak. "Don't worry about her." Qin Mu waved his hand, motioning Yunyaner to continue playing the piano. However, the little loli who had just left saw that Qin Mu did not stop her, and her cheeks puffed even more. She stopped, turned her head and glared at Qin Mu, and said angrily, "No, I must sleep with Daddy." After that, she lay down beside Qin Mu, leaving Qin Mu with a proud back. Qin Mu. This little thing, his temper is getting worse and worse. It was midnight, the moonlight was like frost, and the stars dotted the sky, making the dark night hazy. Qin Mu was studying a great matter with Yunyaner. When they were halfway through the study, Long Xiao Xiao suddenly appeared from nowhere, tilted her head, blinked her big watery eyes, and said innocently, "Dad, sister, what are you doing?" "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mi and Buletin Len. Chapter 70. Little Lolita's question made Yunyaner's face turn red, but she still answered patiently. "Sister is practicing the exercises with His Majesty so that we can become very powerful." Long Xiao Xiao nodded thoughtfully. When she was about to continue saying something, Qin Mu rolled his eyes, lifted her and threw her out of the hall. "Ouch!" The little loli screamed, drew an arc in the air, and fell into the trees on the lawn in the distance. "Papa, how could you do this?" The little loli emerged from the grass with 2 fallen leaves on her head. She rubbed her butt, pouted her little mouth, and had a look of resentment on her face. "I just want to practice the exercises with Daddy." At the same time, Southern Xinjiang, Huainan Palace. The only remaining prince of the Qin dynasty, King Qinshiji of Huainan, was sitting on a high throne, looking at the imperial edict in front of him with a gloomy expression. The content of the imperial edict is very simple, it is exactly the orders Qin Mu gave in the court. Qinshiji closed the imperial edict, glanced at his subordinates in the hall, and said with an indifferent expression, "What do you think is the purpose of the emperor's request for me to support Jiangnan County and suppress the Qian kingdom in the north?" There were several councillors standing below. They all looked solemn after hearing King Huainan's words. One of the councillors said, Back to your lord. In my opinion, your majesty may have some ulterior motives in sending you to lead the troops to Jiangnan County this time. Another counselor agreed, yes, as far as I know, Zhang Luoshan in the north has been preparing to attack Daqin recently, and Qi Angguo is the vanguard force that came to test it. If the prince leads the troops forward, it will be like sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth. Even if the Qian country is destroyed by then, I am afraid that his vitality will be severely damaged. Qin Shiji sneered and said, brother, the emperor is trying to weaken the strength of King Huainan. The counselor also sighed, my lord, please calm down. Now our Huainan palace has the best preserved strength. Your majesty's move is also expected. It's just that in this way, the barbarians outside the southern border will be unstoppable. Although His Majesty's move is understandable, it is indeed inappropriate. Presumably the civil and military ministers in the DPRK and China have tried to dissuade them, but to no avail. At this time, a counselor said with relief. But please don't worry too much, Your Majesty. Although Qi Angguo is powerful, it is not unstoppable. As long as we plan properly, it is more than enough to kill just Qi Angguo with our power. However, another counselor shook his head, but I am afraid that His Majesty will secretly take action to embarrass our Huainan palace. Have you forgotten how King Hongyang died? As soon as this statement came out, the entire audience fell silent. King Hongyang was the brother of King Huainan. He died suppressing the rebellion of the Three Kingdoms. The entire Qin dynasty knew this. But this is only superficial. With the power of the Hongyang palace, the suppression of the three vassal countries would not cause the Hongyang king to die for it. Everyone bowed their heads, knowing in their hearts that King Henjiang's death was definitely not as simple as it seemed. From the fact that after the death of King Hongyang, the entire palace, including the female relatives in the palace, was fully accepted by His Majesty, it can be seen that there must be many complicated secrets involved. But no one dares to tell. Mentioning the death of King Hongyang, Huainan King Qin Shiji's face did not change much. It was as if an insignificant person had died. Qin Shiji said expressionlessly, Brother Huang has issued a death order, do I dare to disobey him? After hearing this, everyone lowered their heads, and the atmosphere became even more silent. Indeed, this is a decree issued by His Majesty himself. If King Huainan dares to refuse, it will be tantamount to disobeying the decree. Disobeying the will is tantamount to the crime of conspiracy. Then Your Majesty will have even more reason to liquidate the Huainan palace. Qin Shiji's fists were slowly clenched, his knuckles turned white, and his eyes were extremely cold. I will never allow a mermaid to be eaten by you, he gritted his teeth. He raised his head and looked at the door of the hall with firm eyes. Since the emperor is determined to cut off the vassal, I will not do what he wants. After the words fell, Qin Shiji suddenly stood up, strode out of the hall, and walked towards the outside of the palace. All the counselors quickly followed him, but all of them were worried. The prince is preparing to resist. In a valley outside Jiangnan County, several figures quickly crossed the sky and rushed into the military camp. They passed through the layers of tents and went straight to the handsome platform. At this moment, several generals were standing on the podium. The old man leading the group was Qi Angguo. Report, we have completed the investigation of the terrain outside Jiangnan County and the deployment of troops. Please make your decision. One of the adjutants knelt on the ground and said respectfully. Yet Qi Angguo nodded and his eyes fell on the map. The map depicts the ring-shaped mountains surrounding Jiangnan County, and various flags are planted on those mountains, representing the troops stationed there. The most eye-catching thing is the most majestic mountain in the middle. The mountain was 10,000 feet tall, standing like a giant pillar on the top of the mountains, exuding majestic pressure. The big mountain is surrounded by continuous mountains, like stars over the moon, surrounding the mountain. It was a dangerous defensive formation. Sure enough, This is the last barrier of Jiangnan County. Chi Angwo looked at the map and murmured. This formation is called Qinren Cliff, and it is an extremely powerful defensive formation. On the mountains surrounding the formation, there are densely packed military camps, where elite warriors are stationed. They are responsible for guarding the formation. Chi Angwo's eyes passed over the 1,000-foot cliff and fell on the plain behind. His eyes narrowed slightly, flashing with a strong cold light. This is the hinterland of Jiangnan County. As long as you pass this 1,000-foot cliff, you can reach Chang'an directly. Chi Angwo looked at the topographic map, pondered for a long time, and began to make the final decision. Come here, report to His Highness, gather 200,000 troops, 1,000 Purple Mansion Realm monks, 300 Shenzang Realm strongmen, and 5 Yuan Shen Realm masters. In 3 days, the troops will arrive at Jiangnan County City. He spoke loudly. As soon as the words fell, someone immediately responded, yes. Then the man turned and retreated. Chi Angwo stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes deep. After a moment, he sighed softly, I hope everything goes well. At this time, someone else hurried over to report. Your Majesty, a man who claims to be King Huainan Qinshija appeared outside the military camp. King Huainan. Chi Angwo raised his eyebrows, slightly surprised, what is he doing here?